Okay, hello guys. Today we are talking about the practice of the a cosine x plus b sine x part, okay? So let's move to the first part, question 1. So here you want to express 6 times cosine x plus 3 times sine x, right? So last lesson we already learned that for the formula a times cosine x plus b times sine x, we can first extract a square root a squared plus b squared, right? So we can just consider here, we can extract it square root 6 squared plus 3 squared, that will become into square root 45, right? Also, we can just consider it as 3 times square root 5, okay? 3 times square root 5. So first, for this equation, we can extract 3 times square root 5. So first, 6 times cosine x can be considered as 2 over square root 5 cosine x. And second one, 3 sine x can be considered as 1 over square root 5 sine x, okay? That is it. So for this equation, you want to set is cosine x minus alpha. So we can just consider here as cosine alpha and here sine alpha, right? So using this, we can set that equals to 3 times square root 5 times the cosine alpha cosine x times sine alpha plus times sine x, right? That is for here is for cosine x minus alpha, right? So we can set here r equals to the 3 times square root 5. And here we have tan alpha equals to sine alpha over cosine alpha is a half, right? So if you want to calculate exactly the alpha's value, you can just use your calculator to calculate alpha equals to the tan a half inverse function, right? So that is for tan a half, tan inverse function, and here inside those brackets is a half, right? So we calculate as 26.56 degree, right? So it's around 3 times square root 5 cosine x minus 26 point, maybe it's 57 degree because it's 26.565, so we can just consider it 26.57 degree, okay? That is for the first question. And for the second question, we can set here, like solving the 6 times cosine 3x plus 3 times sine 3x equals to 2.5. Also, we can first extract r here. So r here equals to square root a squared plus b squared. So here is for square root 6 squared plus 3 squared. So it equals to the like 45. Okay, so it's the same as before, right? So we can just see consider here is for 3 times square root 5 times cosine x minus 26.57 degree equals to the so here is 3x, okay? And equals to 2.5, right? So you can just consider here is 3 times square root 5 cosine 3x minus 26.56 degree equals 2.5. Because then you can use in 2.5 divided by the 3 times square root 5, okay? So that is for the 2.5 divided by 3 times square root 5. And you can calculate the final answer as 0.37, okay? So we can set here, like cosine 3x minus 26.57 degree equals to 0.37, like this value, okay? So now you can just consider 3x minus 26.57 is a total part. So that just let it as u or substitute as u. Because we knew that x is between 0 to 2 pi, right? So 3x minus 26.57 degree is bigger than negative 26.57 degree and smaller than the 6 pi minus 26.57, right? So then you can just draw a graph here. That is for cosine x here. Okay, so here is for 0, maybe here is for negative 26.57 degree, and here is for 2 pi, and here's for 4 pi, and here's for 6 pi, okay? But then you can calculate the exact value here, and you can just draw a horizontal line to find the exact value here, okay? That is it. Okay, so here we can just draw us here, and we find the intercept between them, okay? That is it. Okay, that is for the first question. And sorry, for second question. Okay, and for the third question, like express square root 5 times sine x plus cosine x can be considered as r times sine x plus alpha. So first, just be trying to rethink about the rules for sine x plus alpha can be considered sine x sine cosine alpha, and then it's plus the sine alpha cosine x, right? So here we can just first extract it as square root a squared plus b squared. That is for square root 6. And here is for square root 5 over 6. Here is for sine x and plus a square root 1 over 6. And here is for cosine x. Okay, that is it. So here we can just consider this as a cosine alpha and here as a sine alpha. Okay, here's a sine alpha. Okay, so here we can just put into it. So it becomes to square root 6 and square root 6. And here is for sine x plus alpha, right? And here we can set r equals to square root 6, and tan alpha can be considered equal to sine alpha divided by cosine alpha, right? That is for square root 1 over 5. So you can just calculate it using calculator to calculate. Here, just using the tan inverse function, that is for tan inverse function, like 1 over square root 5, okay? That is it. Okay, so that alpha is about 24.09 degree, okay? That is for this question 3, okay? That is how we can express in this method. Okay, that is for this our lesson. So see you next time. Bye.